Right now on Denver 7 News at 4, protecting some of the most vulnerable.
I was about to cry because I was like, oh no, my parents are going to have to pay a lot.
It's of both fear and of cost.
How state lawmakers are making sure more families have access to medical care, regardless of immigration status.
Baby teeth could hold clues for detecting early signs of mental health. How this could mean getting support to kids long before there's a problem. And all of us are getting a new public way to honor those who have received our country's highest military recognition. The new recognition coming from Medal of Honor recipients.
Plus, a controversial vote among Denver public schools.
To see them vote the other way last night was really upsetting, and I think that there has been some lost trust.
We take a look at the changes the district is making and why teachers fear some programs are now in jeopardy. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. I'm Jason Grenauer. We want to start with some breaking news. A jury has awarded $14 million in damages to protesters who accused Denver police of stepping over the line during the George Floyd protests. The jury found multiple instances of violations of First and Fourth Amendment constitutional rights. We are awaiting a statement from the city, and we'll bring you that and more as this story develops. Coming out of the state capitol today, Colorado lawmakers took a huge step toward expanding Medicaid to cover pregnant women and children regardless of their immigration status. Now, the Health and Human Services Committee voted 8-4 to expand health insurance coverage. The cost of providing that care is estimated at $16 million. But several doctors testified that the state would make up those costs in savings from people getting preventative care rather than waiting for more expensive emergency services. The committee also heard from 11-year-old Giovanni Juarez Granados, who needed emergency care last year, but his parents were hesitant because of their immigration status.
We were coming back from Montrose, and I kept on throwing up on the way. We had to stop the car. I threw up. I ate something. I threw it back out. Sometimes I even threw up, like just spit, because I didn't eat anything. My appendix got inflamed, so it got like big. It was on the verge of bursting. I was worried. I was like, oh no, my parents are gonna have to pay a lot for this surgery.
Giovanni had his appendix removed and is a happy, healthy fifth grader this year. The bill now goes before the House Appropriations Committee, where it also has majority support. Also at the Capitol today, Colorado lawmakers are discussing a bill that would create a new behavioral health administration. Its job would be to develop and run a behavioral health system across the state. It would include a statewide grievance and monitoring system, regionally based services, and it would approve licenses for behavioral health entities. After a long night for the Denver Public School Board and hours of public comment, the board passed a controversial policy change in a 5-2 vote. Now, basically, that policy change wants to make sure all educators in the district have job rights and protections covered by the union's collective bargaining agreement. It'll apply to more than 50 innovation schools in the district, which are given autonomy from some requirements in state law and union contracts to create diverse approaches to learning. Now, it limits certain school plans that waive teacher protections. Those in favor of the change believe it will give teachers more say in their schools, while others are scared it will take away the flexibility that makes an innovation school so special.
But this is setting a minimum standard to ensure that teachers have a voice and we have agency and we have buy-in into our school.
Well, I am a union member, so when they say that it was in the name of teacher rights, I'm actually kind of disappointed because I don't feel like it was in the name of teacher rights.
Now, the policy change won't immediately affect innovation schools. It'll be used when it comes to new innovation plans or the renewal of their plans for next school year. President Joe Biden is in Poland right now, getting a first-hand look at the growing refugee crisis there. He could not cross the border into Ukraine, where the fight against Russia continues. According to a U.S. defense official, Russian forces are running low on air-launched cruise missiles and are trying to preserve their inventory. As Chris Wynn reports, this could be a sign of a shift in the balance of the war.
More than a month since Russia began its invasion of Ukraine, a potential turning point as Ukrainian forces retake towns on Kyiv's eastern outskirts, according to the UK Defense Ministry, with the Ukrainian officials saying forces are going on the counterattack in the capital region.
Every sign of support counts, beginning from, a hug, a word, and most importantly, of course, just the sign of unity on the side of the West, NATO, the readiness to help.
But the human devastation continues to take its toll. Citing eyewitness reports, officials in Mariupol now believe close to 300 people died in a Russian attack on a theater there 9 days ago.
I don't think that nobody abroad can understand truly what just happened in my hometown. Can't even imagine. Living in the basement is not the worst thing happening in the Mariupol. Like, this town turned into a ghost.
Friday, President Joe Biden was in Poland meeting with personnel from the 82nd Airborne Division.
You're the finest fighting force in the history of the world. And that's not hyperbole. You have to say it again. And so thank you for what you do. Thank you for all you've done.
The White House says the president's visit was intended to highlight the war's mounting refugee crisis. More than 3.6 million people have fled Ukraine since the start of the invasion, according to UN estimates. In Washington, I'm Chris Wynn reporting.
So as the president is in Poland, First Lady Dr. Jill Biden is coming to Colorado. She'll be here today for a Democratic fundraiser and a White House event. But she'll also be the guest speaker at the Latin American Educational Foundation Gala. The foundation's executive director, Jim Chavez, spoke with Denver 7 about how they help Latinx students before, during, and after college.
I know that every parent wants their kids to have more education than less. But they need to understand why and how to access college and what's the real value of it and what are the right classes to take when you're a 5th grader or a 7th grader or a 9th grader. How to prepare yourself early on so that when the time does come that you're prepared not only a little bit more financially, academically, and just the family has an idea of how they're going to actually make that happen.
Chavez says as executive director, he could introduce the First Lady tomorrow night, but instead he's going to let one of their students have that honor. Tomorrow's fundraiser will help provide future scholarships. You can learn more about the foundation's work on the website laef.org.
The consequences of the war in Ukraine will last long after the fighting ends. The U.S. and European Union are now partnering to help reduce Europe's dependence on Russia for energy. As part of the agreement, the U.S. and other countries will increase natural gas exports to Europe. Climate goals will also play a critical role to reduce the continent's dependence on fossil fuels and move toward clean energy. Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson is now likely to be confirmed. Senator Joe Manchin announced today that he will support her nomination after the two met. Now, as long as the 50 members of the caucus vote for her, they will not need Republican support. The Judiciary Committee plans to vote April 4th, then the full Senate later that week. Meanwhile, current Justice Clarence Thomas was released from the hospital today. The 73-year-old spent the last week there being treated for an infection after experiencing flu-like symptoms. The court did not elaborate on his health, but did say he did not have COVID. The Medal of Honor is one of the most distinguished recognitions in the United States. It is the highest military award presented for acts of heroism and valor. It was first awarded on this day back in 1863, and each March 25th, we honor what it means. Those who have received it will tell you it represents more than an individual.
But this heroism, again, isn't happening in a vacuum. There's people there. There's other people that are part of your team. And ultimately, war is unfair. So you represent people who didn't get the award, who could have, should have, but just simply were lost in the process, lost in the haze of war, lost in its cruelty.
Lieutenant Colonel William Swenson joined the Army after 9/11. He served in Afghanistan and Iraq. In 2009, his acts during an attack by the Taliban earned him the Medal of Honor. Today, he is also serving on the board of directors for the National Medal of Honor Museum Foundation. After decades of efforts, they finally broke ground on a physical museum today in Arlington, Texas.
We still have living recipients from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and the current generation. So you have service members who see themselves differently than their predecessors. We have to be representational of that as well. So we have to fairly represent what they saw as America when they served.
Lieutenant Colonel Swenson says this will be a living museum. It will change and adapt as Medal of Honor recipients pass away and as new honors are awarded. There are more than 3,500 recipients. Fewer than 70 are still living. The Arlington Museum is expected to open late 2024. It won't be the only site. Last year, Congress unanimously approved a law to build a Medal of Honor monument in Washington, D.C. The The National Medal of Honor Museum Foundation is responsible for raising money for that project. Now, doctors are still working to figure out exactly what causes autism, but a major 20-year study is revealing some answers. What it shows about a certain condition during pregnancy.
And later on Denver 7 News at 4, the red carpet will be rolled out for the 94th Oscar Awards this Sunday. We hear from two Denverites up in the running to win some Oscar gold.